Hey everyone, how you doing this week? Hope all is well. Cheers. Drinking up on a pale ale that I made just before the July holidays. It's drinking real nice and smooth. And I got a sister version of this in the keg that will be going to a work party this weekend. So looking forward to share this with a lot of my colleagues, and hope they like it. Beyond that, I was able to brew up a beer this Saturday. So big shout out goes to Nate from Under the Table Brewing. Nate was kind enough to share with me his recipe for the Dropkick Nate. So I went ahead and brewed that up on Saturday. Key highlight on that recipe is the Eldorado and Galaxy hops. But yeah. Anyways, I've got that to show you here in this video. And also, I don't know if you guys have been watching the videos up on brewtubers.com for In the Brewhouse series. So about a week, 2 weeks ago, I posted a video where I interviewed with Barry from the Brewed Palette. And then this coming weekend, you're not going to want to miss it because Stephen Tate is in the Brewhouse. Or a lot of you guys might know him as Hattrick 364. So he actually was doing a marketing job, didn't like that, wanted to become a brewer. So we went off and took the Siebel Institute's Brewmaster course and graduated about 2 months ago, I think. So very cool to have him back, and hopefully he'll be posting more videos in the community about his activities in his new job. So cheers to you, Stephen. Look forward to great things from you in the future, sir. Cheers. Alright, so without further ado, let's get to the brewing. Alright, so starting off the brew day, I am doing Dropkick Nate, and I'm not, fucking around here. 10 gallons, baby. Straight to the top. Basically, I took Nate's recipe and modified it a little bit, adjusted for my system, but basically the grain bill comes out to about 80% 2-row and then 20% Munich malt. And then forget about the water, but the only hops that I'm using here in the boil is Eldorado at 60 to get 25 IBUs, and then Galaxy at 5 minutes to contribute 9.6 IBUs. And then later, for steep it in a Whirlpool, we'd be dropping in just over 100 grams for a good IBU contribution there. But it'll be down to 80 degrees or 180 Fahrenheit, and so right there we're just trying to soak out some of the oils, get a really good Whirlpool. Today, for the first time in a long time, I'll be using USO5. I'll be throwing one packet in a one, and I'll actually be using the WLP002 in the other 5-gallon fermenter. Okay, so what's really important is, what I want to focus in on is using these amounts and getting a pre-boil gravity of 1042. And for that, I should be reaching my 80% mash efficiency. And then also later today we're going to be looking and focusing on how you get from there and reaching your estimated post-boil gravity target 1.050. So let's go ahead and get the brew day started. Alright, so I'm shooting for a strike-in temperature of about 75 degrees, and I've got the water up to 75 degrees now, so it's all in there. The heat element is going on periodically, keeping it at that 75 degrees. The pump is circulating, so you can sort of see the water going around and around. It's coming out the spout right over here. So we've got it coming out of the bottom of the HLT, going into the pump, from the pump back up in there, and it's always moving around the HL, always moving around the element. Alright, so let's go ahead. You see I've got the grains in there, so let's go ahead and dough in. What we're going to do is underlet. So what that means is I'll disconnect the line from here, from the pump, and go directly in the bottom, and that will slowly fill up from the bottom, and that will actually result in no dough balls. So I will give it some stirring a little bit periodically throughout the mash, but I won't see any dough balls whatsoever because of the underletting process. I really highly recommend that. Alright, so I've got this guy filled up to 14 gallons. We're going to be putting on 6.5 gallons underletting into the mash tun. So you'll see coming out here through the top of the pump over into the bottom of the mash tun and filling it up. So let's go ahead and just open her up. There. I'll open her up over here. And pretty soon, in a couple of seconds, we'll start to see the water flowing up through the sight gauge. This is why it's really nice to have a sight gauge here. There we go. Alright, there we go. Water coming up. And this is underletting. So when you hear people in Homebrew Wednesday videos or brewing videos talk about underletting, this is it. You're filling up the mash tun with water after the grains are in there. Alright, over here on the HLT, you can see the water slowly coming down. Started off with 14 gallons, about up here. My target is going to be down here where the tape is. So I got a little bit to go. You can see it's still rising up. 6 gallons. Just starting to see it seep around the edges. Slowly filling up. Okay, so there was a really short period here where I had to make sure that we were filled up to the volume we wanted in the mash tun, and also had to refill up the HLT. So the HLT is refilled up. Temperature is currently at 53, and it's steadily rising to come back up to where we want our mash temperature to be. Let's set that down to 60. It's going to be 66.5, so 67 will get us there. And in the mash tun, it's showing 63, but it's really not. We haven't stirred it yet, or I haven't stirred it yet. So here we go. There's the mash tun, and so I'll go ahead and give it a stir. Get all those grains matched up. I'll bring some of them to the top, and you'll see that there's no dough balls. It's just a nice fluid saturation. It's really nice. So the reason that the mash tun temperature on the control panel looks like it's only 64 is because it's not flowing. I've got the PID thermocoupler here, so it's not flowing out and recycling yet. I'll wait until the HLT temperature gets up to speed so that the coil will be at the right temperature. Or at least the water around the coil will be right at the right temperature. But here I've stirred this up quite a bit now. I just want to go ahead and get my silicone tubing fixed the correct way. But we'll go ahead and look at the mash temperature now. Now that it's stirred up, right about 68, 67.5. So that'll come down about a degree. I'll leave it open a little bit, stir. So that'll come right down to 66.5, which is where we want to be today. So that's looking really good. Set the timer on that and start the mash. Mashing time today is 75 minutes. So if we go and hit that bad boy, the clock is started. So we're mashed in. Go ahead and give it one last stir, put the cover on it, and wait for the HLT to come up to temp. Alright, so we've been mashing for about 27 minutes. About 15 minutes ago, we were at the right temperature. So HLT is at 66. Inside the mash tun, what's coming out of the bottom is 66. It's right where I want it. Changed the cable a little bit. So the water is recycling in the HLT to maintain that 66 degree temperature. And then now I've got the hoses attached on the mash ladder tun, so it's also recycling, coming out bottom of the kettle, bottom of the pump, through the top, through the coil, maintaining that 66 degrees all the way through. We come down here, we look on the scale, see we're right at 66. It's exactly where we want to be, just a bit over 66.5 is what we're aiming for, and we're right there. So everything's looking really good. Got the mash is coming in, recycling. It's looking really nice. It's about an inch over the grain bed. So yeah, so far BrewDay is going very nice. Alright, so we're about 39 minutes into the mash. See, it's clarified pretty good. It's coming up really nice over that grain bed. Just fantastic. Looking really good. Alright, so the lineup for today for hops, as seen on the recipe: 60 minutes, 28 grams of El Dorado. At 5 minutes, we're going to see 56 grams of Galaxy. And at flame out and a 30-minute Whirlpool, we're going to see 56 grams of both El Dorado and Galaxy. And then once fermentation is complete, we'll be throwing in 50 grams of El Dorado and 50 grams of Galaxy. It's actually going to be 25 grams in each fermenter. So 25 grams of Galaxy will go in one fermenter, the other 25 grams will go into another fermenter. Same thing up here with the El Dorado. So it will be a total of 50 grams in each fermenter. Alright, so we're about 70 minutes into the mash, and I went ahead and just bumped this up. We'll get the mash out temperatures of 75. And then slowly ramping that up. Here in the HLT, currently at 67.5, ramping up. And here in the mash tun, currently about 66.5, and that'll be slowly ramping up to 75 degree for mash out. Alright, so here we go. We're about 10 minutes later. It's 5 minutes after the 75-minute mark. HLT is at 75 degrees, and the mash tun is at 69 degrees and climbing for the wort coming out. You can see that here in the front. HLT's right at 75 mash out temperature. Mash tun is about 72 in the middle and coming up. So now I'm going to go ahead and reroute the cables so that I can start filling up the boil kettle. Okay, so we can see the wort starting to collect up into the boil kettle. Looking pretty nice. Let's slow that down just a hair. So, starting over here, we've disconnected the water recirculation. So instead, now it's coming through the pump, up through the coil, heating up to that 75 degrees, coming out through the top, onto the top of the mash tun. Everything's looking really nice over here. Just got it dribbling out a little bit there in the end. And the amount that it's coming out there should be the same amount that's coming out here, so that I maintain that level in the mash tun for the duration of the mash out. That's it. Mash out is underway. Okay, so mash out still continues. Things are going quite nicely. Just reached over the element now. Collected so far about 4 gallons into the boil kettle. Our goal today is upwards of 13.5 gallons, somewhere in that area. So we still got a ways to go. A little tip for the guys that are also doing these types of systems: if you're just getting started, when you get to this point, it's really useful to get the mash tun flow rate into the boil kettle the way you want it. So, you know, you don't want to go too quickly here. You want this whole process for 5 gallons to be about 45 minutes. For a 10-gallon batch, you know, you want it to be about probably closer to an hour, hour and 15 minutes. So you want that flow rate to reflect that. It's not a dribble, but you know, it's about like this. And then once you get that flow rate, you don't have to play with this pump anymore. I mean, that's done. The only flow rate that you have to mess with is the one over here on the HLT, on this pump, for pushing the water out into the mash tun. Because you can monitor if you got a sight glass, and I highly recommend you have one. If you don't already, get one. So here I'm right at the 10-gallon mark, and then I'll notice that if my flow rate coming out of the HLT is too much, it'll start to go higher. And so then I'll have to back off from that pump a little bit and slow it down. If it's dropping down, then I know that I'm mashing out too fast, and that, or not mashing out too fast, but I'm not pumping out of the HLT fast enough or enough. So I'll have to increase just a little bit and maintain that set volume. And the volume is pretty much just making sure that you have 1 inch to 2 inches of water on top of the grain bed, like you see here. So here I've got 10 gallons on the sight glass. It's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches above the grain bed, and that's just great. So in summary, get your flow rate on your boil kettle set first, then connect this up and get your flow rate going on your mash tun, from the HLT to the mash tun. And that way you only have to mess with one lever in order to get the volume steady and maintain a consistent rate until you've reached your final sparging volume. And then you can shut this off, and then this will finish dropping out, and the boil kettle will be at the pre-boil volume that you want. So today I'm going for 9.5 gallons of mash out water. I started off up here at 13, and I'm coming down to 3.5 gallons. When I reach the 3.5 gallon mark, that's when I stop sparging, and then just let the mash tun slowly drain out. So I hope that helped anybody who's building a system similar to this. And once you do it a few times, it gets a lot easier, so good luck with that. I always love watching this. Watching the wort just slowly climb on top of the hop blocker. Look at that color. Okay, so I was supposed to collect about 13.1 gallons today. I got like right around 13.3 really. Heating up right now for the boil. Okay, so I was supposed to collect about 13.1 gallons today. I got like right around 13.3 really. Heating up right now for the boil. Things are going good. Checking my pre-boil gravity. Let's see if I can get this. Alright, so I got about 1046. So I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so as you notice, I cranked up the fan, starting to get to a rolling boil. Had just a little hot break actually. And looks like we're about almost on the other side of it, so I'll wait just about another minute and then make sure this is under control, and then drop in the 60-minute edition of El Dorado. Alright, here we go. So 60-minute hop edition, 28 grams of El Dorado. Here we go. Smell-o-vision. Alright. Here she goes. Alright, so 45 minutes into the boil, about 15 minutes left. Time for the wort flock tablet. And yeast nutrient. There it is. There she goes. Definitely a chemical reaction. Alright, 5 minutes left in the boil. Time for 56 grams of Galaxy. There she goes. Smelling pretty good. Awesome. Alright, we just passed the 60-minute mark, so time to shut off the element. Come on over here and time to put in the 112 grams of El Dorado and Galaxy. That's 112 grams together. Alright. Wow, look at that. Just bubbling it up. And we finished out at 11.9 gallons. So just go ahead and let that soak for a few minutes while I get the hoses hooked up. Go through the counterflow chiller. Alright, so in a matter of about 4 or 5 minutes, I was able to drop this down to about 78 degrees. It was at 80 when I shut off the water. And basically I want this to whirlpool at that temperature for about 30 minutes. I should have did this and dropped it down before I put the hops in, but hopefully some of those oils are still there and not, you know, all volatiled off. So yeah, we'll go ahead and let this whirlpool for about 30 minutes. Get it out the other end, and we'll come back. So now that the boiling is done, it's a little bit quieter. It's nice. So for the Whirlpool, if you guys been watching my channel for a while, you know that I used to use this thing here, and you know it would go down into here, and I'd clamp it on the side and sort of whirlpool that way. But I think that this way is at least good enough for now. But I did go out and get a few more bits and bobs, as they say, and so I just got to fit this into the side of my kettle down here in order to get a proper Whirlpool port. So I'll get that in, put in probably this week, and use it maybe next weekend. So yeah. Alright, so here we go. Filling up the fermenters. It's emptying out. Going through the pump, through the counterflow chiller, and over into fermenter. Already got one back there filled up, 19 liters. This guy's doing quite nicely. 19 liters, that's 5 US gallons there, Joe. So this one's going quite nicely. Filling this up. This should be right around 19-20 liters as well. Come over and check that Whirlpool action. See how the hops sort of build up around the hop blocker. Time to lift this up. Let the little holes in the bottom let some through. Alright, so here they go. End of the brew day. Got about 20 liters over here. About 19.5 liters over there. Good to go. These guys are going to sit for the next, probably 2 weeks. This one's WLP 002 and WLP, nope, no WLP. It's US 05 on that one. So yeah, there we go. Alright, let's sort of sum up the brew day. I overshot my post-boil gravity by about 3 points, or 3/100ths of a point. I was aiming for 1.050, I ended up with 1.053, and that was all intentional, actually. I want to share with you guys this information I got out of the book Designing Great Beers by Ray Daniels, because I think it's very useful. The idea is to understand gravity units, and gravity units are basically the sugar content and how much gravity is in your total volume of wort. So take, for example, my pre-boil gravity and volume. My pre-boil gravity was 1.046. And if I times that by actually my volume, which was 13 point, let's call it 2 gallons, that comes out to about 607.2, I guess. Let's just round it up to 607. And then for 607, that's a constant that I can use, because no matter how low I boil in my gravity, in my volume, you know, the gravity constant is going to stay the same. The gravity unit is going to stay the same. Now I can use this by saying, okay, let's say 607, and I want to figure out what my target volume is going to be in order to hit my target gravity. My target gravity was 1.050, right? So I can divide my gravity units by the target gravity. Now, for this, it's going to be 50, because 1.050 is actually, to get gravity units, you know, minus 1 times 1,000, and then you get 50. If this was 1.120, gravity units would be 120. Okay, so using my constant of total gravity units to figure out what my volume is going to be when I reach 1.050, I simply divide the constant, 607, divided by 50, and that's going to give me 12.14. Now today, when I reached 12.14 volume, I was actually only about 45 minutes into the boil. And I'm really kind of shaky about DMS and all that stuff, so I didn't want any DMS in my beer, so I figured I'd continue boiling. I was also boiling a little bit stronger than I normally do. My PID duty cycle was at 85%, where I'm normally 75. So I definitely overshot my evaporation rate a little bit. And that's okay. So, okay, let's figure out exactly what my gravity is going to be at my post-boil volume. So using the constant again, my gravity units, 607 divided by my volume was actually 11.4 gallons. Equal that out, and I'm going to come up with 53, which in gravity is 1.053. And that's actually what I came out with today. So I just wanted to share this with you because you can use this formula in order to determine what your gravity is going to be at a specific volume and when you want to stop. You can use the gravity units in order to determine what your volume is going to be based on a gravity, your target gravity. Also, you can determine what your gravity is going to end up with at a specific volume, and that's very basic. That's basically it. So go ahead. Remember, this is your pre-boil gravity multiplied by your pre-boil volume, and that will give you your total gravity units. Use this constant to figure out your target volume, or what your volume is going to be to hit your target gravity. And also use the total gravity units constants to figure out what your gravity is going to be at a specific volume. So I hope this helps you in some way, shape, or form in your future brewing. Good luck. So there you go. That was the brew day. Everything went pretty good. I was just a couple points off, but that's okay. Should be within the ballpark. Thanks again to Nate. I really truly appreciate him sharing that recipe with me. Cheers to you. Cheers to your dad. Cheers everyone. I hope you guys are having a hell of a week. Have a better weekend. Cheers.